Chief Nonso Azubuike's home in Ikoyi was the kind of place you didn't just walk past without staring. High black gates, security dogs that barked like they could swallow a man whole, and a driveway long enough to make you sweat before you reached the front door. Inside, marble floors gleamed under imported chandeliers. Expensive paintings lined the walls, some of them worth more than a year's rent in Lekki Phase 1. But for all the beauty, the house was strangely quiet most nights. Nonso sat on the balcony that overlooked his perfectly trimmed garden, swirling a glass of palm wine in his hand. The distant hum of Lagos traffic was the only sound. He had just returned from a business meeting in Abuja, where he closed a deal worth billions. But as he looked around the big house, he felt an emptiness money couldn't fill. It wasn't that he lacked family. His wife, Amaka, was beautiful, a tall, fair-skinned woman who could make any man turn twice. They had 3 children. Chidera, the firstborn son, studying abroad, but always needing money. Kamsi, their 21-year-old daughter, whose love for designer handbags had become a legend among her friends. Ebube, the youngest, barely 16, already dreaming of sport cars. Then there were his siblings, Obinna and Kelechi, who saw him as a walking bank. One rainy night, after a charity dinner at Eco Hotel, Nonso stepped out of the ballroom to take a call. On his way back, he passed the women's lounge and overheard Amaka's voice. She was speaking to her friend Adeze, laughing softly. "My sister," Amaka said, "I love my husband, but let's be honest, without his money, this marriage won't be sweet. God forbid he loses it. But I know where I'll find comfort if it ever happens." The words stabbed him in his chest. He didn't walk into the lounge. He didn't confront her. He just stood in the corridor, his heart beating hard, rainwater dripping from his umbrella onto the marble floor. That night, he lay awake while Amaka slept peacefully beside him. So even she? The following month, the rain fell without mercy over Ikoyi. It was the kind of heavy downpour that made even the boldest Okada riders pull over. But Chief Nonso Azubuike still went out. He was dressed in a dark kaftan with subtle embroidery, the kind that spoke of quiet wealth. The event was the burial of his old friend Alhaji Musa, one of the few businessmen Nonso truly respected. The burial was held in Surulere, under a massive white canopy. The air smelt of wet soil and perfume. People whispered in small groups, some truly grieving, others scanning the crowd for important faces. Nonso took a seat in the front row, close to the coffin. Musa's children sat on the other side, their faces blank. His eldest son, Bashar, had his phone hidden under his agbada sleeve, typing quickly. When the imam finished the final prayer, the coffin was lifted towards the grave. The rain turned the soil to sticky mud. That was when Nonso noticed something strange. Bashir and his uncles arguing in low voices, right there beside the open grave. "We must secure the company accounts today before anyone else interferes," one uncle muttered. "No, I am the rightful heir," Bashir snapped, forgetting the imam's presence. Nonso's chest tightened. His friend's body wasn't even in the ground, yet his family was already tearing each other apart over property. When it was time to throw sand into the grave, Bashir barely dropped a handful before stepping aside. Nonso remained, staring at the coffin as it disappeared under the wet earth. The imam's voice faded in his mind. All he could think was, if this is how they treat Musa, what will happen to me when I go? On the way back to Ikoyi, he sat in the back of his black Range Rover. His driver, Musa navigating through flooded streets. Musa Nonso began, his voice low. If I die today, do you think my family will cry because they miss me or because they will miss my money? Musa glanced at him in the rearview mirror, then back at the road. Oga, better not test them, sir. You might not like the answer. But those words didn't scare Nonso. They only planted a dangerous seed in his heart. That night, while Lagos traffic honked outside, Nonso poured himself a drink and stared out at the city lights. What if I could see their reaction without actually dying? Would I finally know the truth? The idea settled in his mind like a stubborn guest refusing to leave. For the next 3 nights, Chief Nonso could barely sleep. He would lie in bed beside Amaka, listening to her soft breathing, wondering if her arms would still hold him if he woke up tomorrow with nothing. In the quiet hours before dawn, his mind replayed the scene from Alhaji Musa's burial. The greed in his children's eyes, the shameless quarrel at the grave. By the 4th night, he made up his mind. He would not wait for death to find him. He would invite it, at least on paper, and watch what happened from the shadows. It began with a late-night meeting in his private study. The only other people in the room were Barrister Olatunji, his trusted lawyer of 12 years, and Musa, his loyal driver. The rain tapped gently against the tinted windows as Nonso leaned forward in his leather chair. Gentlemen, I am going to die. Musa's eyes widened. Oga, God forbid, why you talk like that? Nonso smiled faintly. Not for real, Musa. I want Lagos to believe I am dead. I want my family to believe it too. Barrister Olatunji removed his glasses, studying his client. Chief, do you understand what you're suggesting? This is not a movie. There will be legal consequences. I understand, Nonso replied, his tone steady. But I also understand that the people closest to me may not care about me at all. I need to know the truth before my real death comes. Will you help me? They planned it carefully. Step 1. Nonso would travel abroad for medical treatment after a sudden illness. The public would hear that his condition was critical. Step 2. 2 weeks later, the announcement would be made. Chief Nonso Azubike dies in his sleep. Step 3. A grand funeral would be arranged. Amaka and the children would believe they were burying him. Step 4. From a safe hideout far from Lagos, Nonso would watch everything. It was Musa who suggested the fishing village in Ondo State. It was a place without flashy buildings, where men still mended their nets by hand, and women sold roasted plantain by the roadside. No one there had ever seen Chief Nonso in their lives. Perfect, Nonso said. There, I would be just another man. Before the night ended, Nonso looked them both in the eyes. If this plan leaks, my life could be in danger. Musa, Olatunji, my trust is in you, is my last wealth. They both nodded. Oga, Musa said, my mouth go lock past padlock. Chief, Olatunji added, even the wind won't hear it from me. A week later, Lagos would wake up to the headline that would change everything. Billionaire Chief Nonso Azubike dies in his sleep. And in the shadows, the real Nonso would be watching, waiting. The morning was quiet, too quiet for Lagos. Birds were still picking at crumbs on the streets when the first WhatsApp messages began to fly. By 8 a.m., the news was everywhere. Breaking news. Billionaire business mogul Chief Nonso Azubike has passed away in his sleep after a brief illness. Family sources confirm he died peacefully in a private hospital abroad. On Instagram, Celebrity pages posted old photos of him at red carpet events. Twitter hashtag sprang up instantly. Hashtag rest in peace Odogu. Hashtag gone too soon. Hashtag Nonso Azubike. Politicians sent out official condolence statements. Old school friends dug out pictures from decades ago, captioning them, "My brother from day one. Life is truly short." Some of these friends hadn't spoken to him in 10 years. At his mansion, the atmosphere was like a movie set. A long white canopy had been erected. Chairs lined up neatly for mourners. 2 cows and several goats were tied at the back for cooking. Amaka sat in the center of it all, wearing a deep black lace gown with intricate beading. Agele was tied perfectly, not a single fold out of place. She dabbed her eyes with a white handkerchief whenever a camera pointed at her. But what struck Nonso, watching the live stream from his hideout in Ondo, was that the handkerchief stayed too dry. His 3 children were there too. Chidera, in a crepe black senator outfit, scrolled through his phone even during the opening prayers. Kamsi wore a designer black dress that looked like it had just been delivered from Paris. She was busy taking selfies with friends for memory's sake. Ebube kept yawning, clearly bored. At one point, Chidera leaned towards Kamsi and whispered, "The hidden camera in the hall caught it. If this burial ends early, I can still make it to Lekki tonight." She laughed softly. The gold-trimmed coffin was lowered into the ground as the choir sang a slow hymn. Mourners wailed, some genuinely, others in exaggerated performances. Nonso noticed something chilling. His brothers, Obinna and Kelechi, were standing at the far end, not even looking at the coffin. They were bent over a notepad, scribbling figures. Later, he would learn they were estimating the value of his car collection. That evening, when most mourners had left, Amaka stayed behind with a small group in the living room. Laughter floated from the windows. Glasses clinked. From the live feed, Nonso watched her tilt her head back and laugh. The kind of deep belly laugh he hadn't seen in years. It hit him like a slap. His death had not left a hole in their hearts. It had opened space for them to breathe freely. In that moment, Nonso knew this was only the beginning of what he would see. From his quiet hideout in the fishing village, Chief Nonso woke up every day before dawn. The air smelled of salt and wet wood. Fishermen's voices floated in from the shore, calling to one another as they pushed their canoes into the water. It was a far cry from the hum of Lagos traffic, and yet every morning he felt a knot in his stomach as Musa brought in his tablets for the daily updates. Through a hidden camera in the Ikoyi mansion, Nonso saw Amaka instructing the house staff to move her clothes and jewelry into the master bedroom, the very room they had shared for years. She didn't hesitate. She also ordered that his personal wardrobe be cleared out and sent to charity. Musa zoomed in on the footage. She was keeping some of his expensive Italian suits for herself, packing them carefully into storage. Chidera, his eldest son, posted a photo on Instagram with a brand new sports car, captioning it, "For you, Dad, I will drive it with pride." Nonso clenched his jaw. That car was worth 85 million naira. He had never approved such purchases for Chidera when alive, and now, barely 5 days after his death, his son was flaunting it online. Obinna, his elder brother, sold 2 of Nonso's Range Rovers. When the family asked why, he claimed it was to clear pressing debts left behind. The truth, Nonso's accounts had been left with enough liquid cash to cover any debts. The sale was pure greed. Day 14 was the day that bumped him the most. Musa called him from Lagos, his voice low. Oga, you no go like this one, I won't tell you. On the screen, Nonso saw Amaka in a private restaurant on Victoria Island. Across from her sat Emeka, the same family friend Nonso had always wondered about. They were laughing, leaning close. At one point, Emeka reached across the table and touched her hand. She didn't pull away. The Ikoyi mansion became the venue for something that made Nonso's blood run cold. It was a party, not a memorial service, not a quiet gathering, a party. Music blasted from the speakers. Laughter spilled out into the streets. Champagne corks popped. The camera feed panned across the crowd. Celebrities, socialites, politicians, all eating, drinking, and dancing. Kamsi was on the dance floor in a glittering dress. Chidera cleansed glasses with his friends. Ebube played loud video games in the corner, unconcerned. It was as if they had been waiting for him to die so they could breathe freely. Nonso sat in the dim light of his small room in Ondo, watching it all unfold. His hand trembled as he turned off the tablet. For the first time since he started this plan, he felt a strange heavy sadness. So this is what my life really meant to them. A wallet that stopped breathing. The sun was gentle that morning in Ondo. The breeze carried the faint smell of smoked fish, and children's laughter echoed in the distance. But Chief Nonso's heart felt heavier than it had in weeks. He had spent the night replaying the images from the party. His children laughing, Amaka smiling in Emeka's face, his brothers talking business while the memory of his death was still fresh. It was Musa's voice that broke the silence. Oga, you need to see this. On the small tablet screen, the familiar marble grave came into view. A frail figure sat on a low plastic stool beside it. She was wrapped in a faded Ankara wrapper, a scarf loosely tied around her silver hair. In her hands was a bunch of white flowers, not roses, not lilies, just simple blooms picked by the roadside. It was Mami Forma, his 74-year-old mother. She spoke softly, almost like she was afraid the world would hear. Nam, my son, I don't know if you can hear me where you are. The house is quiet now. Your brothers don't visit me unless they want something. Your wife, I don't see her anymore. But I remember you. I remember the little boy who would run barefoot through the cassava farm just to bring me a mango from the neighbor's tree. She paused, wiped her eyes with the edge of her wrapper. I don't need your money, my son. I just wish you were here to hear my voice. Nonso's chest tightened. He reached out and touched the screen as if he could hear her. The camera feed showed her leaning forward, brushing away the dust that had gathered on the marble headstone, arranging the flowers